Okay, aha, there we go. Okay. So, I, I can stream on YouTube. Who knew? Um, so here we are. I'm not gonna. Well, this I didn't expect. I was just going to experiment a little bit, see if it was possible. I don't know. I was just pressing buttons. But we are live, so I guess I do have one or two things that I found while I was roaming around tonight, and I don't know. Hi, I'm Josh with American Gnome Productions. I normally do this kind of stuff on Twitch, but since we're all here, or I'm here, I'm, well, is there a stream settings? This little thing right here is pissing me off. That little thumbnail. So you can do all the things that you do normally with a video. Let's see. There it is. Guess we can put this in. I guess this is an extension of the Gnome Show, so it doesn't really matter where. I don't know. We'll see. I'm really. Oh, okay, that works. Okay. All right. So. Oh, if you guys are interested, yeah, these guys are doing their 10-hour run of the mugging. It is brilliant. Mugging a mugger. It's a 10-hour loop. It's absolutely mad, but it's good fun. Go check it out if you're bored, or in for a good laugh, because the chat is going well and strong right now. Yeah, this is what I wanted to. I found this. It's by Curious Archive. He has actually quite a few good things. I have two videos from him tonight. Make sure you like and subscribe to his channel. It's good stuff. I have not seen this one before, and it's called, well, you can see it up on screen. So let's check it out. Yeah, where's the play button?
When I tell you Simon Stålenhag's The Labyrinth is a maze you'll never escape, I don't think I'm exaggerating. A sci-fi horror art book where a mysterious phenomenon turns Earth into a world of ash and decay, the setup seems simple. Likewise, the characters, a trio of survivors journeying across the wastes, seem easy to relate to. Yet the deeper you venture, the more you realize the labyrinth is a complex tangle of secrets, mysteries, and revelations so gripping that it never truly lets you go. So, for this entry into the archive, we'll attempt to decipher this masterpiece of dark world building. And like my videos on Stålenhag's other series, you can purchase
this
the
is just an
artbook
experiment,
using the links in the description. Now, let's enter the maze of the labyrinth.
To see what the environment is for streaming on YouTube.
A whisper. Mysterious black globes appear in the sky one day. Their arrival so subtle and quiet, it is at first thought to be some sort of natural cosmic phenomenon, as if Earth has simply drifted into an unknown part of the galaxy. Yet the spheres seem to move in formation, gliding through the landscape like they're following a coordinated plan of action. And soon, planet Earth begins to wither, the atmosphere growing toxic over a timescale of decades. It is a chillingly subtle apocalypse, slow and almost imperceptible. All attempts to destroy the globes prove futile, with military crafts left warped into dreamlike spirals of matter, as if space itself has been twisted. Rendered completely inoperable, these misshapen weapons lie forgotten in fields alongside all hope of defeating the spheres. The apocalypse in the labyrinth is so far beyond human comprehension that the narrative could be classified as cosmic horror, a genre that extracts terror from the unknowable and otherworldly. The black globes cannot be reasoned with, rationalized, or removed. They are utterly insurmountable, an astronomical nightmare that humanity has no hope of escaping.
Each player gets two completely different mazes.
The profound helplessness that incomprehensible phenomena instill can be better understood in conversation with the film The Endless, another work of cosmic horror that follows a cult which has emerged around a mysterious, reality-bending entity. Like the threat in the labyrinth, the entity in The Endless is subtle and insidious, only perceptible in the elusive ways it warps space. Yet the dread it conjures is palpable, felt in scenes where cult members play tug-of-war with an unseen force in the sky, or when three moons rise overhead, a visual that, like the black globes of the labyrinth, conveys the celestial scale of the threat.
The first one to get through the maze with all three balls lights up the tower.
Over a decade after the globe's arrival, the sun, appearing faint and green through an ammonia-choked atmosphere, rises over a landscape of ash and ruin. Only a small population of humans avoided the extinction that befell the vast majority of life on Earth. Yet it is in this era of dust and decay that the primary narrative of the labyrinth begins. Three protagonists set out across the desert in a research vehicle. Two are siblings and employees of Kungshal, an underground facility that is one of the last safe havens for humanity. The third is a child and former refugee the siblings took in during the crisis years. All three carry with them dark secrets from before civilization's fall. The trio journeys towards an uninhabited research outpost. The siblings hoping that their routine will help the child, who has been showing signs of acute psychological distress at Kungshal. They also plan to conduct some light research on the changed surface. After all, such expeditions are common and appear to be perfectly safe. Yet there are other things in the otherwise barren landscape. Things that don't resemble life on Earth, yet seem to be alive all the same. Answers to what these entities are
There we
and
go,
why
that's
they
much
seem
better.
so at home in an otherwise apocalyptic biosphere
And that artwork,
can
man.
only be found by venturing deeper into the labyrinth. After a long drive across
You actually
the
got to do
somber
one of those
mesas,
puzzles in
the
Atomic
trio
Heart.
at last arrives at the isolated outpost. Although half buried in dunes of ash, the vacant station represents one of the last safe environments in the age of the globes. And yet while the interior is protected from dust and ruin, the environment doesn't feel safe. In the garage, a mural depicts dandelion seeds blowing in the wind, a visual so incongruous with the apocalyptic reality of the planet it becomes almost eerie. This uncanniness only grows more intense deeper within the station, where objects remain stacked in neat rows. There's a sense of desperation in these scenes, the impossibly clean interiors a way to pretend that nothing beyond the facility walls has changed. As a result, common objects take on a cadaverous quality, stuck in time like insects trapped in amber. The feeling of falseness can be so extreme, these interiors can seem more hostile than the barren desert outside, an environment that, while far from pleasant, is at the very least straightforward. The uncanniness that these altered interiors exude isn't easy to put into words. Compared to your typical sinister locale, nothing about the research station is overtly menacing. And on a cultural level, we all know what a creepy interior is supposed to look like. There's usually cobwebs
Yeah.
and spiders, gothic hallways with dim lighting and long shadows.
But we have
Perfect
much
stage
bigger
for something to
problems
pop
with
out for the
large,
inevitable scare.
seemingly empty
But there's
spaces
another
that
kind of interior,
probably
one
aren't.
that lacks every traditional element
Or
of
maybe
the
they
sinister
are, and
dwelling,
we have a
yet can
problem
be
with
infinitely more
that
unsettling.
fact.
The Overlook Hotel from The Shining isn't dark or cramped or run down. It's a bright, spacious, clean venue. Yes, it's haunted by the dead, both metaphorically and perhaps quite literally. But as a hotel, it honestly looks nice. Yet through the eye of director Stanley Kubrick, the building feels unwell. Everything from the dizzying patterns on the carpet, to the queasy colors of the rooms,
Yeah.
to the sheer uncanniness of spaces meant to hold thousands more people than the three main characters, broadcasts a sense of wrongness, for lack of a better word. As the leads become increasingly psychologically distressed, the unfriendly setting feels like a reflection of their growing mental unwellness, and perhaps even the cause. It's fitting, then, that the facility in the labyrinth mirrors the Overlook Hotel, both in its unnerving aesthetics and disturbed occupants. For like the characters in The Shining, the three leads in the Overlook are haunted by ghosts from their past, pushing them to the point where they seem genuinely unstable. Although for much of the narrative, it's difficult to determine which characters are dangerous and which are in danger. At the end of The Shining, lead character Jack Torrance reaches a point where he tries to hunt down his family with an axe. It's a looming potential outcome that stays with you as you read through the labyrinth and wonder how dark things will get before you reach the center. As a suffocating tension builds within the station, the brother and sister continue to make daily expeditions into the surrounding wasteland to study Earth's new environment. And in the emaciated remains of what was once a city, new forms of life have arisen. Amongst the wreckage, gargantuan stationary organisms sprout from the ashen sand like enormous fans of coral. These life forms seem at home in the new climate, as if the globes have terraformed Earth to match the biosphere of their place of origin. Yet these coral specimens are just the beginning. Deeper within the maze of the city, tremendous stalks grow inside the husks of buildings, having infested the structures like hermit crabs occupying a shell. The tops of these stalks stretch towards the diffused green light of the sun, the scene evoking a photograph taken far below the waves. Imagery reminiscent of the deep sea appears throughout the labyrinth, with the suits needed to survive on the surface evocative of not just astronauts, but also old-school divers. There's a sense of incompatibility that the land has become as unsuitable for human life as the deepest oceanic trench. Elements of cosmic horror once again rear their heads in these scenes, as the siblings are utterly unable to explain the phenomena around them.
It just feels a little bit
Money
mad to
that
be
didn't make
streaming
it
on
into the final art
YouTube.
book, a
I'm glad I'm
mysterious
here though.
squid-like creature spreads ribbon-shaped tentacles throughout the city. There is no
Not sure
understanding this new environment. There is only danger.
Whether I like streaming on here
In
better
this
or
respect, the
well,
wasteland is resonant with the shimmer
I don't
from
know.
the
I feel
film
like I should be
Annihilation,
streaming on
a psychedelic
on
region
Twitch
that
right
an
now, but
alien entity
it's an
transforms
experiment.
into a
Whatever.
new ecosystem. The shimmer can be deadly for humans to traverse. Yet, like Earth in the labyrinth, the shimmer isn't devoid of life. Instead, it's
look at that.
overflowing with new types of organisms. In fact, it's left ambiguous if the force behind the shimmer even comprehends that it's causing harm, an ambiguity that extends to the
Oh,
labyrinth.
okay.
Although little comfort to the survivors, there's a possibility the near extinction of humanity was just an accident, an unintentional byproduct of some unrelated operation. The new world might be toxic to life forms adapted to the old one, but clearly some entities prosper in these new conditions, growing to colossal sizes.
Wow.
Perhaps whatever intelligence is behind the changed biosphere thought only of the benefit to themselves, and never factored in the suffering of others. Yet the creators of the Black Globes are not the only faction in the labyrinth that made callous calculations to survive. The city is haunted by organic detritus, but also the wrecks of giant armored drones, employed by the military police during the crisis years. And these destructive weapons weren't just aimed at the globes.
And now he's digging his way into home.
Later in the labyrinth, we learn that in the years leading up to the surface becoming completely uninhabitable, panic and desperation spread among civilians.
I
The
bet.
air became difficult to breathe, and refugees urgently sought shelter from the sphere's toxins. Rumors of Kungshaw, a hermetically sealed city with room for only 100,000 inhabitants, spread to the desperate masses. As a carefully constructed micro-ecosystem, Kungshaw could not hope to shelter the many needy people who sought refuge. And so, the protectors of the facility, the siblings included, made a grim calculation, one they'd spend the rest of their lives trying to justify. A massive quarantine zone was erected around the site, with heavily armed guards and robots patrolling the border. All possible threats to the project were annihilated. In order to save humanity, the employees of Kungshaw believed they needed to be inhumane for a period of time. The strategy was simple.
That was really nice artwork.
Methods
Like,
of
I really like
instilling
it.
fear
Like,
by any means necessary became common practice. There was no official name for what the guards of Kungshaw were doing.
Simon
No name was
Stalinogs.
needed. And in many respects, the plan was a
Stalinog
resounding
is the name of the
success.
artist.
The streams of people seeking safety diminished. The message had been received. Whatever misery the survivors were fleeing from, something much worse awaited them at Kungshaw.
I might have to grab that book.
Yet cruelty
He's
does
got
not
good
vanish.
stuff.
It lingers, festering in the souls of those who wield it, and in those who made it.
He also is the author / artist of Tales from the Loop. We've seen that one on stream before too, on my Twitch streams for earlier in my career. Yeah. He's God, such good art and world building and what do they call it? Environmental storytelling.
is wielded against. Among the refugees who suffered at the hands of Kungshaw was the child the siblings would later take in, a decision they made to ease their guilty consciences and forget the darkness of their past. But what some seek to forget, others shall always remember.
They think I'm trapped, but I'll escape.
Tunnel Runner, the new video game where you don't look down on the maze. You're in it.
Monster!
The people in the labyrinth are a tangle of moral complexities, knots you turn over and over in your head as you try to unravel them, struggling to reconcile their many contradictions. The characters themselves seem lost within their own memories, unable to decide the right path forward. This conflict is represented by a maze that comes from a computer game the child plays, which grows larger and larger as the story reaches its climax. There is a literal maze at the heart of The Shining as well,
Yeah.
an immense expanse of hedges that dominate the local grounds. For a film known for its puzzle-like storytelling, it seems like a logical inclusion. Yet as is the case in The Labyrinth, the maze in The Shining is also symbolic of the psyche of the main characters, in particular, Jack Torrance in his descent into utter madness. Perhaps the greatest mystery of The Shining is the source of Jack's insanity. Is it something he brought with him, as the film implies he abused his spouse and child in the past? Is it symptomatic of the hotel itself, a seemingly hostile locale? Or is it something beyond comprehension, the scheme of an otherworldly entity we can't hope to understand? This plot point acts as a prism, with the refracted truth appearing differently to each member of the audience. The ending of The Labyrinth is just as multifaceted. In fact, it might be more so, because in The Shining, out of the three lead characters, there's at least a distinct villain in the form of the act.
So, Jack Nicholson actually was in the fire department, so that swing is on form, and he was absolutely, utterly exhausted when they finished filming this scene, because Mr. Kubrick is absolutely, utterly relentless with his actors.
Wielding Jack Torrance.
Look at
The
that axe
Labyrinth
swing,
has
man.
no villain, not really. Just people who had to make terrible decisions and people who can't let go. And while you hope they'll be able to escape, to find a way out of the maze they've all trapped themselves in, there's no exit in sight. Famously, in the final scenes of The Shining, Torrance becomes lost within the very labyrinth that represents his winding path towards insanity. The film ends not with the red-hot swing of an axe, but a long, slow fade-out as he succumbs to the cold of a snowstorm. The blizzard an apparent reminder that there are far more powerful and elemental forces at work in these stories than humans. The labyrinth ends with a flood. The
Oh, wow.
ammonia in the atmosphere falls like rain and dissolves the water frozen under the ash, a final, unexpected stage of the changing Earth. The dark liquid wells up in the interior of the station, drowning the red corridors. And in the midst of this catastrophe, the pressure building within the lead characters finally bursts in a way I found both shocking and somehow completely inevitable considering all that came before. While I won't give away all the final twists and turns to The Labyrinth, if you'd like to know everything that happens, you can check out the book for yourself.
Yeah, I'm gonna have
To another maze.
I'll have to go to his
The
website and see
Labyrinth
what's
doesn't
available.
exist in a vacuum. Simon Stollenhag's other works, Tales from the Loop and the Electric State, explore related themes of bureaucratic inhumanity and lingering trauma through a lens of visually stunning sci-fi. Yet though both of the aforementioned works have their serious elements, I believe The Labyrinth is ultimately Stollenhag's most solemn story yet, one I still feel a part of me is trapped within. While all narratives have to come to an end, the mysteries and tragedies of The Labyrinth lingered long after the final page, which is a testament to the story's strength. All of Stollenhag's futures are worth experiencing, and if you find these worlds as interesting as I do, you can purchase the art books using the links below to get the full narratives, and follow Simon Stollenhag on social media. As always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this entry, please lend your support by liking, subscribing, and hitting the notification icon to stay up to date on all things curious. See you in the next video.
Oh, no, 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 no. That's what I get for, ooh. Okay, and, this next one, I was actually here for this particular explosion, within, collaborative world building, projects, I guess. The SCP, I found them first as a wiki, while looking for, I don't know, probably was, like when, analog horror, started, really getting popular early on. I found the wiki, and it's got 4,000-5,000 entries or more probably now. With each one of those entries is an SCP entry, and it's absolutely stunning the amount of work, and talent and imagination that is just available for free. Highly recommend checking it out, but we're gonna find out exactly why you should check it out. You don't have to hear it from me; you can hear it from, the gentleman we just talked, that just told us about the labyrinth.
I'd like to show you an abyss. Locked within its depths are bewildering and uncanny abominations. The keepers of this abyss believe they are in control. They're wrong. This abyss is the universe of SCP, which began as a seemingly straightforward website where community members create and classify abominations. Yet from this site, the franchise has grown so vast, influenced so many people, that trying to fathom its totality feels like gazing into an unending expanse.
Yeah.
So for this entry into the archive,
the lore is
I'll
so
explore
deep
not
with
just the
SCP
universe
that
itself,
it's
but
mind-boggling.
how SCP became one of the most gargantuan and
There are,
uncontainable forces on the internet. And to do that, I have to start at the beginning. On June 22nd, 2007, an anonymous user made a post describing, in dry academic language, a concrete sculpture that moves when left unobserved, snapping the necks of anyone who breaks eye contact with it. The sparse description
that's
was
one of the most
accompanied
famous
by
ones.
an image labeled SCP-173. At the time, meaningless letters and
There
numbers.
are
Nobody could have
universes
predicted that this
within
was the birth of
universes
something
in the
astonishing.
SCP universe,
Flash
like
forward
different,
several months, and numerous people were creating their own
canon,
anomalies with the
universes,
same label format.
where different things
Most were rather
happen,
simple,
like
with
alternate universes, basically,
SCP-628, for example,
within the same
being a
canon.
reptile that's virtually invincible. But the universe was starting to take shape, with the SCP Foundation determined to be a secret organization responsible for containing and studying mysterious phenomena. And with this framework, things exploded. On the current website, there are more than 7,000 unique entries, many of which are exceedingly original. The entry for SCP-2521, for example, contains no text whatsoever, composed instead of strange infographics that are confusing at first, until you realize they're telling you about a monster that will appear if it's written or spoken about. It's some genuinely creative horror.
It is kind of weird that they don't show, it doesn't show that I am live on,
or the Old Man,
well,
is an unfriendly-looking fellow who can corrode any surface and hunts humans. Classic effective
yeah, it shows
horror.
that I'm okay.
SCP-294 is a coffee machine that can dispense anything, including abstract concepts like musical talent or lethal nuclear waste, which is definitely a new one. Certain posts have achieved unique popularity, like 049, aka the Plague Doctor, who looks like a human in a 15th century plague outfit until you look at an x-ray which reveals the mask is part of his body.
Yeah, this guy is awesome. The Plague Doctor?
Which, spoiler alert, is just death. Not every SCP will connect with every person. but there are so many entries with such distinct styles that it's practically a certainty that at least one post will draw you in. And once you're in, there's no getting out, because the posts themselves are just the tip of the iceberg. Many of the best entries on the site are text only, which has inspired a legion of talented artists to create their own renderings of what different SCPs
it does show
might
it. It's
look
just
like.
I've got to go
That
under
original SCP-173, for example,
live
no
stuff.
longer has an image associated
That's
with
cool.
it, because the initial photo was actually an unlicensed picture of the sculpture Untitled 2004 by Japanese artist Izumi Kato.
Yep.
But don't worry, because there are thousands of images reinterpreting the evil statue, some of which are really creative, like this one from Valdez Evia, an artist I've covered before on the channel. But it's not just famous SCPs that get this treatment. There are absolutely stunning works of art for the most obscure entries, and I think the reason has to do with the format of SCPs themselves. When you read an entry that speaks to you, it's hard not to obsess over what the anomaly might look like. And
True.
since many posts have no art of their own, that obsession often explodes out into artistic recreations. But when you read an entry like SCP-610, or The Flesh That Hates, or that virus that turns humans and animals into blobby tendrils of meat, you don't just want still images. You want to see it move. And you can. There are literally tens of thousands of animations and live-action short films up on YouTube that bring SCPs to life in 3 glorious, horrifying dimensions. The channel Forlorn Foundry is home to some of my favorites, creating
Forlorn
fancy
Foundry
CGI recreations of various anomalies. But complex visual effects aren't the only way to effectively bring an SCP to life. Some of the most chilling Forlorn Foundry adaptations are the simplest ones, like their unbearably claustrophobic exploration of SCP-1562, an infinite tunnel slide that is impossible to escape from once you get stuck within its chasmal depths. Or the similar SCP-087, a pitch-black staircase you can never reach the bottom of. My favorite moment in this video is when someone trapped on the stairs drops a coin off the railing, and the anticipated sound of the coin hitting the ground just never comes. It's seriously clever filmmaking, conveying the dread and anxiety of the original entry, and I think that's part of what motivates Forlorn Foundry and similar channels, a desire to recreate how the best SCPs feel when you read them. And I'm guessing that's why there are so many adaptations of SCP-3008.
IKEA, a place where children could play while their parents shop.
Okay, so we're gonna have to cover some of these, and because I can do some a little bit of reading too. I can go to the wikis themselves and bring you little tidbits while we watch the individual entries. Thank you very much, Mr. Curious Archive, for introducing me to Forlorn Foundry. That is cool. Yes. His channel looks all fucking cool.
Our friends could share and could cheer. So vision has come to pass. IKEA has just opened its 70th store.
The most renowned SCP in the subcategory of immeasurable spaces is the Infinite IKEA, an extra-dimensional version of the already labyrinthine retail store that literally never ends. Something about wandering the furniture displays in perpetuity, forever unable to find your way back to the entrance, has struck a chord with the internet, leading to countless digital recreations. I've seen...
Have you ever been into an IKEA? That shit is creepy as fuck. Like, they mean to motherfucking keep you in there. It's... I see why it was turned into an SCP. Because all at once it is happy and warm and inviting and comfortable and soft and glowy, and yet it is sterile and quiet. There's like I mean, there were store people there, but mostly it was just like a bunch of fucking tourists wandering around the showroom, like ooh, ah, ooh, this isn't too bad. Ah, yeah, that's comfortable. Ooh, yeah, it's. I don't like it. It's useful. Yes. I understand the whole liminal space thing with it, and the infinite IKEA idea, where like it's just like if you look beyond the row of shelves, it's more shelves, like, or it curves in on itself, or it fucking like it won't let you out. It's and that's another thing, getting out. Like, you literally have to go to the end of the fucking whole circuit to get out. Like, I mean, you could probably find your way back, but it's oh my god. Oh my god.
References to the infinite IKEA well beyond the sphere of SCP. There are entire fan games about this concept, letting you get lost among the endless furniture displays as a gnawing loneliness sets in. It's a sensation that I find strangely familiar. I'm sure many of us have early memories of getting separated from our parents in the supermarket. Even if it was just for a brief moment, the aisles suddenly felt larger and more threatening, and there was a sense that you'd never find a way out. I think many of the most well-known SCPs are rooted in these half-remembered childhood fears, which helps explain their infectious popularity. There's something universal about the vertigo of a really big staircase, or again, an empty store that allows SCPs to reach a wide audience feeling unsettled. But they're also kind of hilarious. Like, being stuck forever in an IKEA is disturbing, yet at the same time, really funny in a way that's difficult to quantify. When night falls in the store, faceless monsters wearing IKEA employee uniforms start hunting you through the dark. And while logically that should make things scarier, to me it only adds to the humor. This paradoxical comedy is present in a lot of SCPs. SCP-1609 was a chair that helpfully teleported to people when they needed to sit down, until someone put it through a wood chipper, turning it into a rageful pile of mulch that teleports into people's lungs. And while murderous sawdust would be terrifying, it's pretty hysterical in the abstract. And this, I believe, is the other massive component to SCP's unparalleled expansion. Even if every entry won't scare you, chances are at least a few will make you laugh. And the more of these stories you read, the funnier it all seems to get. The question of why a never-ending ensemble of...
There's a particular SCP entry that is about it's a Warhammer related story, and it's also related to a toy product, and it's really cool, and I'm going to try to find it because I may try to read it. Yeah, let's there a lot of people have been through the major ones. I particularly just like this one because it hit me in the feels. So I feel like I kind of want to read it. There are some other tales out in there that are really, really good too. We'll see.
Terrors is so amusing can be best answered
Cabin
by
in the Woods.
genre-bending horror comedy film The Cabin in the Woods. Probably the closest thing to
Which is a really good
big-budget
movie.
SCP movie, the story involves 5 friends vacationing at a remote cabin, unprepared for the terrors that await them. What at first feels like every horror movie ever quickly goes
The
off
Buckners?
the rails as we learn the whole thing is being orchestrated by a secret organization that keeps every conceivable type of monster contained in an underground facility. Monsters they unleash onto unsuspecting youths to appease the old gods. This overabundance of horrors is the key to the film's humor. A single monster stalking a group of innocents is horrifying, but 1,000 monsters of contrasting origins and genres starts to become, well, comical. And it's this principle that makes the SCP series so entertaining. Yet beyond the absurdity of both Cabin in the Woods and SCP is a stark commentary on desensitization. In the film, the technicians in charge of the facility are completely numb to the reality of what they're doing, taking bets on which monsters will slaughter the population. In many SCP stories, Foundation employees behave the same way.
This guy
having
was
become apathetic
totally
to
fucking
human
infatuated
suffering
with the
after a
mermaid one.
lifetime of containing anomalies. And both narratives implicate the viewer as well. In Cabin in the Woods, the old gods are a clear stand-in for the audience, unfeeling spectators who demand sacrifice. Likewise, with SCP,
We want blood,
the
that's what
more
we paid money
entries you
for.
read, the more you inhabit the perspective of a Foundation employee clocking in to their job, increasingly unafraid of the nightmares within.
YouTube's got good bitrate though.
The ability of SCP to immerse you, to make you feel like you're part of the universe, has made its stranglehold on the internet inescapable. It leaves you with a desire to go deeper, to experience the narratives firsthand, and I'd wager that's why games based on the franchise are so insanely
I think that's
prevalent.
available on Steam.
SCP Containment Breach is quite possibly the most well-known thing ever to crawl out of the franchise. The indie game has an easy-to-understand haunted house format, where the deadliest anomalies escape and hunt you through a dimly lit facility. And shortly after its release, Containment Breach exploded on YouTube, with view counts on playthroughs so high I'd wager it's how many were introduced to SCP in the first place. But like the wiki itself, SCP games have come a long way since Containment Breach, with the most impressive from the standpoint of sheer creativity probably being Secret Files. Released in 2022, the title puts you in the shoes of a newcomer to the Foundation who learns about past SCPs while working in the archives. The story is
that's
divided
cool.
into chapters, each with a gameplay and art style so distinct they might as well be different games. For example, one chapter is dedicated to the famous SCP-701, or the Hanged King's Tragedy, a 17th century play that causes
I might have
anyone
to
who
look that
performs
up.
it to lose their mind. Appropriately, the chapter itself is chaotic and psychedelic, with the player never certain what's real and what's a product of the anomaly affecting their mind. From an artistic perspective, it's one of the more immersive ways to experience a reality-bending SCP, and can at times be genuinely spooky. On the opposite end of the tonal spectrum is the chapter
I wonder
on
if it's possible to stream on Twitch and YouTube at
a
the same
cardboard
time.
box that acts as a portal to a Narnia-esque magical land that paper dragons come out of. The original entry is famous for its uniquely non-horror approach, and to reflect this, the art
Probably.
style of this chapter is bright and painterly, and the gameplay is equally charming. Instead of running for your life, you use stickers to bandage the wings of paper dragons
cool.
and practice your penny flute for the big recital. The whole chapter, I kept waiting for things to get dark, and while like the original entry there is some truly tear-jerking stuff as the magical land starts to fade away, for the most part, the chapter retains its storybook presentation throughout. Taken as a whole, Secret Files is the ultimate proof of SCP's versatility, that it can be used to tell stories in any genre. The infinite variability of SCP means that no single game could ever embody the series in its totality, which hasn't stopped fans from trying. SCP Fragmented Minds is an upcoming crowdsourced game that seems massively ambitious, taking a more combat-oriented approach in contrast to the more passive Secret Files. Fragmented Minds seems to have a lot of passion
It is the near
behind
future.
it, but more than that, it seems symptomatic of a larger dream. There's a phantom of a big-budget AAA SCP game that haunts the ever-growing fanbase. The feverish hope that one day a mainline studio might take a swing at the franchise. It doesn't seem impossible. In fact, it might have already happened. The majority of the game Control revolves around the secretive Federal Bureau of Control, an off-the-books government agency created to seek out, contain, and categorize supernatural items called objects of power. And if that sounds familiar, it should, because Control and SCP are explicitly, irrevocably intertwined. The makers of the game Control have stated that the game's story and atmosphere are heavily influenced by the SCP series. Think about that for a second. A major award-winning company made what is, on some level, a fan game of an indie internet horror anthology. That's pretty unheard of. But the connections between the franchises goes deeper. Control takes place within an altered building called the Oldest House, an ever-changing structure where the Bureau has set up headquarters. Nothing about the Oldest House makes scientific sense. Its interior is infinitely larger than its exterior, certain rooms are thresholds to other dimensions, and the building itself can only be seen by someone explicitly looking for it. And yet despite this, every description of the Oldest House and the altered objects housed within are written in the same dry, confident tone, deeply reminiscent of the language used in SCP entries. The same confidence extends
so maybe
to in-game
I have to get this game. Damn it.
where researchers will discuss mind-shattering phenomena like it's all business as usual. There's even an insane puppet show called Threshold Kids the Bureau created to reassure children that there's definitely nothing to worry about. Sure, the building seems malignant and is full of floating zombies, but everything is under control. It only takes a few minutes of actual gameplay to make it clear that no one in the game Control is actually, well, in control. The notion that layers of bureaucracy and paperwork
He's the only one that knows what's going on. The janitor is always the only one.
Is just an illusion. And the same is true at the SCP Foundation. Despite the Foundation's best efforts, the deeper into the lore you get, the more patterns of administrative dysfunction emerge. As in Control, the Foundation is ultimately an under-equipped group fighting a losing battle against forces they can't truly understand.
There are realities where things worked out. There are realities where everything is collapsed. Where it was the SCP's fault. There are realities where the sun has literally turned evil, for lack of a better word, and direct sunlight will start mutating you into the sort of like the flesh that hates, and then you become one with the rest of the flesh. There is one where things have gone horribly, badly, terribly, awfully wrong, and one agent was apparently ended up inside a null containment suit where he couldn't be detected by anything. He was basically a passenger, or not a passenger, but an observer, taking this briefcase across the blasted landscape of the country/world, and it all ends in oblivion. But the ending is the beginning. The ending is the beginning. There are lots of stories. There's one story where SCP, I think it's 602, the indestructible reptile, where he is the last living thing in the universe. He literally watches the stars die, and everything, and watches the descendants of long dead human civilization come back and plant a memorial to those that died well and long before, and like I think it still might be the ending for humans, even at that. Like it's crazy. Like there's so much. There's one more where the SCP is literally being judged on whether they should be allowed to join the wider multiversal organization and make things fucking better and fight off the fucking enclosing ennui, the nothing, the never, like whatever you call like the evil. Um, there's a lot. Oh yeah, and then there's the Crimson King. I think it's the Crimson King, the Red King maybe. But it's they're all kind of the same thing. There's just so much. Um, And that's outside of the regular canon.
Many of the most complex recent stories set in the SCP universe emphasize this hopelessness, this sense that the Foundation isn't as in control as they'd like to believe. The recent 20-minute film 096 by Clea Beale explores the tragedy and horror that occurs when the cracks in the Foundation system start to show. The film's title comes from SCP-096, a monster that hunts down anyone who looks at its face, whether it be directly, via video recording, or even a photograph. Yet the other monster haunting the film...
Like, even if you caught, like, a pixel of that motherfucker, you didn't even know that you saw it, but your brain saw it, he will come for you. It's fucking crazy.
The fact that this franchise went from a bunch of people sharing spooky ideas on a message board to something this thematically dense is pretty astonishing. And 096 isn't the only SCP adaptation of its level of quality on YouTube.
Nope.
SCP Overlord by Stephen Hancock and Evan Muir is an even lengthier short film that captures a similar atmosphere of powerlessness. A tightly wound thriller, it follows a group of Foundation military operatives who are slowly picked off by an incomprehensible threat, made all the more unsettling by the fact that the film never tells you which SCP is taking them out. These filmmakers have made other shorts set in this universe that also don't fully explain which anomaly the protagonists are dealing with, which helps put the viewer in their shoes and makes everything tenser. There's a clear hunger for cinematic takes on this franchise. SCP Overlord, for example, has almost 18 million views. As was the case with the games, I'm sure a lot of fans discovered SCP through these videos, and some of these new fans will inevitably create their own SCPs, which will in turn produce more fan content, which will reach new people, continuing an infinite, self-perpetuating cycle. The idea of a website dedicated to uncanny terrors that slowly takes over the internet is exactly the sort of thing one might expect to find on the SCP Wiki. But in the ultimate twist, that description applies to the Wiki itself. The SCP series and its popularity is the kind of anomalous phenomena the Foundation would want to contain. But it can't be contained, because there's so much...
There's a living tattoo that feeds off, I think it feeds off the melanin in the victim's skin, but you can I think you can feed it tattoos, and you can also transfer it to somebody else through something. I don't remember all the specifics. But it's fucking creepy and crazy.
More than I've covered so far. There are episodic animations like the Confinement series that prove SCP's potential for more comedic, serialized storytelling. There are entire channels dedicated to going through each entry in incredible detail. There are graphic novels, short stories, other organizations, alternate universes. The fandom seems to be ever expanding, completely out of anyone's control. And perhaps that's as it should be. While massive and unwieldy, there is such a range of styles and genres across this franchise that I truly believe it is something for everyone.
You could literally
In the
do
end,
anything
the most important thing that
in
SCP Foundation
this
offers
universe.
is a canvas upon which ordinary,
You can go
passionate creators
as
can leave their
micro
mark.
or
I
as
think
macro
that's
as
the
you
real
want.
secret to its success, and why this abyss, unfathomable though it may be, is worth staring into. As always, thanks for
Thank you.
watching. If you enjoyed this entry,
Did,
please
very
lend your
much so.
support by liking, subscribing, and hitting the notification icon to stay up to date on all things curious. See you in the next video.
Let's see. Oh, so it's only 8 minutes. It's from Laid Back Gamers. I wanted to see how many of these Easter eggs I managed to find in the game myself. And every time I watch something about Cyberpunk, it makes me want to play again.
Hey Trooms, today I'm going to be doing something a bit different from my average video essays and analysis content. We are going to be looking at Easter eggs found within Cyberpunk 2077. There's a catch though. We aren't going to be taking a look at any average Easter egg or reference like many of the other Cyberpunk 2077 videos on YouTube. What we will actually be looking at are references and Easter eggs connected directly to the source books of the Cyberpunk tabletop RPGs that you might have missed.
Cool, I like
For those of
lore.
us
I like
who
the
don't
juicy
know,
lore.
Cyberpunk 2077 is a sequel to the tabletop series created by Mike Pondsmith and Art Talzorian Games. Utilizing the source books of the TTRPGs is what gave us 2077, and they as well provide us with official and canon predecessors. If you're interested in the vast lore these source books provide, I suggest subscribing to my channel and checking out my analysis content to learn everything from the inaccuracies of Silverhand's memories to even official Cyberpunk story narrations.
I mean, if any, like I don't understand why they don't do Cyberpunk like as an ongoing television series. Like, you could totally do that for fucking like HBO or Netflix or Prime, like where just like you pick a city every season, a different part of a different city that showcases a different part of Night City. Because its individual flavor is different, just like all the parts of Night City are different from each other. I don't understand this. This would be very easy to adapt, and you could just like overlay CGI on like the existing city. I don't know. Like, I think it would be fucking awesome. So many stories to tell without too much fucking problems retrofitting or updating. You could just so much.
The first reference I'll be showing today is one of huge importance. While many will see it as just a filler image on the shelf of the Afterlife bar, it is so much more than so. This image actually contains the members of a very important Edgerunner group. These Edgerunners are the main protagonists of the Black Dog story within the Cyberpunk Red core book, which as well consists of Trace Santiago, who is heavily rumored to be Rogue's and Santiago's son. The reason this holds so much importance is that not only does it provide proof of Red's canonicity within 2077 itself, it as well tells us that due to Black Dog being represented in 2077, Silverhand's memories are indeed inaccurate, and his body may very well not be buried at the trash yard at all. This is because within the Black Dog story, the Edgerunners are tasked to transport a mysterious new crate in the year of 2045. Unbeknownst to this group, though, the new crate had its original guts removed decades beforehand, only to be replaced with the now cryogenically preserved body of Johnny Silverhand. This body is left off in the hands of a woman named Angel, who bears a shocking resemblance to the Alt Cunningham. Hopefully now, when you sit at the Afterlife, you keep this at the back of your head. I have plenty more.
So this is, that is very fucking interesting, because Phantom Liberty, you hear Johnny's voice talking to somebody that isn't V. It's very interesting.
information on this group, story, and Silverhand on my channel as well for any further investigation you may desire. The next we'll be looking at may not hold nearly as much importance as the previous image, but it's cool nonetheless. We can find the image of Mike Pondsmith himself within 2077. This is during a Johnny Silverhand flashback in 2013, in which he awakes in Rogue's room. You can find it in a dimly lit corner desk. The image contains Pondsmith, Silverhand, and Rogue all hanging out together.
Oh, that's
Nothing
cool.
game-changing, but it's a nice nod from the game designers to the man who helped them all through it.
Mm.
And now, I swear, we are at the final photographic Easter egg within this video.
Ah.
Yet again, it may not be anything major, but it can be found in Judy's apartment, where she does her workshopping in tech. Directly on the
Judy,
table, you'll find
my
an image
girl.
that may not pop out to you at first,
I
but
played
if
the
you read
female V in the game, and I definitely romanced Judy.
Source book that comes with every copy of 2077, then you might immediately recognize this rocker boy as the one and only Johnny Silverhand. That's right, this was the appearance of the iconic Silverhand before Keanu Reeves came on board to bring it to life. What do you think of his look compared to Keanu's? Would you have preferred it, or are you happy with what we have? Personally, I believe Keanu embodies the resilience and rebellious nature of Johnny Silverhand perfectly.
Yeah.
Several of the shards found within Cyberpunk 2077 happen to reference source books as well, even directly quoting from. One of the most direct being the Cyberpunk 2020 rulebook. Contains several excerpts from Section 1 of the Cyberpunk 2020 core book. It can be found on a table in the basement of the building on Grovin Street in Little China, Watson, during the gig The Heisenberg Principle. You can as well find multiple shards written by the famous Solo Morgan Blackhand, first of which being the Solo's Manual, which contains the introduction of his book on what it takes to be a Solo.
Yes, sir. I remember that one.
Is the roof of Misty's Esoterica.
Yes, sir.
A symbolic location of V's path to becoming the ultimate Solo. It can be found as well at the Whole Foods plant. The last Morgan Blackhand and sourcebook reference shard is named Morgan Blackhand Street Iron. It details the reliability of classic firearms and the Liberty pistol Morgan Blackhand swears by. It can be found in the Second Amendment, located inside Mega Building H10, but can only be obtained during Shoot to Thrill. Now, this specific reference isn't exactly a place or scenario. Rather, it's an animal. This reference comes in the form of the cat Nibbles that you can find in a dock
What's up, buddy?
in 2077. What makes this cat
Hi,
unique
Nibbles.
compared to the cat Mr. Brightman that we can
Hi,
find
Nibbles.
outside
You're my
Clinic
Nibbles.
from time to time is its connection to the legendary netrunner Raish Barmos.
Sorry, didn't mean
Yep,
to wake you
that's
up.
correct.
Sorry.
These cat Nibbles has an obscure connection to the mastermind behind the data crash. This reasoning actually comes from Mike Pondsmith himself, who stated on his official Reddit account, "Word of God, that's not Nibbles in 2013. It's actually Raish Barmos' cat, Deathwish. The two cats look so similar because Deathwish is actually Nibbles' great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather." End
Nice.
quote. I guess nothing ever truly is just as it seems within Night City. You might remember a goofy, clownish character.
Yes, sir.
In 2077. This character obviously
I helped
being
him with his
Ozai
mission and sent
from
him on his
Sending
way.
the Clowns and Be on the Brat. What you may not know, though, is that Ozab is a character originally created in the 1990s with the Cyberpunk TTRPG from a Brazilian blog that was featured on 3 Cyberpunk RPG special episodes of Nerdcast, which was the website's popular podcast. His inclusion in 2077 is clearly a way to show support toward the creation of famous characters within the longtime cyberpunk community. If V does, however, end up killing him in their illegal fight in Pacifica, his marking at the columbarium will read, "We live in a society." I think that speaks for itself. Moving on to the final sourcebook and tabletop reference for today's video, we land ourselves yet again in the columbarium. This time, though, we're looking at a name that might not ring a bell for those.
My buddy Matt is buried in a columbarium in Manassas. It's very nice. I miss you, buddy.
Of us unfamiliar to the source books. This memorial marks the name Robert John Linder and reads, "Son of a bitch who never gave up, a legend among legends." This is actually Johnny Silverhand's birth name. He had only changed it after losing his arm in the military, roaming his signature silver arm cybernetic. in moving to Night City. His name is even found next to all Cunninghams. It's a subtle, yet respected nod to the man Johnny was before becoming a legend, and who he was after. Let me know what you thought about the references to the cyberpunk sourcebooks contained within this video. Do you appreciate and enjoy subtle nods toward predecessors such as these and look out for them? Or do you just focus on what's at hand? Do you have any other hidden references to add? Let me know down below. Don't forget to subscribe if you're a fan of cyberpunk and its expansive lore, as well as theories, analysis, and gameplay pertaining to the series. Hope you enjoyed, and I look forward to seeing what you have to say. Have a great day, Choom. Hey Choom, thanks for watching the whole video. If you enjoyed and want to keep up to date on Cyberpunk 2077 lore, discoveries, and additional content, subscribe to my channel.
I just want to, like, does that mean that potentially Johnny Silverhand is alive? I mean, means a lot of different things. All right. Well, I think that's where I want to. Yeah, it's already just about 3 o'clock. So this was just a chat. Or just an experiment. I'm glad it worked. I'll have to see how this figures in to things down the road. I don't know. I'm not sure whether I like Twitch better than Twitch streaming better than I like YouTube streaming. Absolutely nobody on tonight, but you know. I'm small fish, so whatever. But I hope you enjoyed the sampling of videos tonight. I do, when I have video premieres, I don't watch these beforehand. Sometimes I've seen them before, and I'm posting because I think that y'all would like them, but most of the time I'm seeing things for the very first time, just like you guys. So yeah, just food for thought. But thank you for joining me, if you did look in. If not, that's okay. This was very impromptu, and I'm just glad that it worked as a proof of concept for YouTube streaming, I guess. But yeah, maybe I'll do this again. Maybe I'll just keep going on Twitch. We'll see what happens. But you guys have a great night. Be safe, be happy, be healthy, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a good night.